So let me pause for a moment, see if you have any question about either the email communications, the resignations, or the enrollment figures that I included for February. Okay, so then let me move on to some of my reports. First, I asked Mr. Shea to join us. Bob, why don't you come on up? I figured he would be able to give you more details, and if you had questions, you could ask him directly. But I've asked Mr. Shea to update you all on some challenges our facilities faced during the Arctic blast we received recently, and then of course an update on the trial, where we are and how we're progressing with that.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, we had a few challenges, I'm sure, not only here, but hopefully you haven't had any at your homes. But you know, we had a pretty rapid freeze, which is very difficult, but the backside of that is usually the worst part. It's when it starts to thaw just as fast, if not faster. So we had some issues. Valley View, we experienced a broken pipe. We're trying to isolate, we lost the boilers that evening, and we're trying to find out why those did not reset. So the unfortunate part of that is I had planned a early building check because of the temperature, but I didn't want to do it very early in the morning, so I made sure that my senior custodian staff went in around noontime to try to find a good median, and we're lucky because that break most likely occurred about 10 minutes before Sal made it to Valley View. If he was there at 7 a.m., which he usually does, 7, 8 o'clock, his daily checks or his weekend building checks would have ran until someone saw it on Hall Hill or High Street. So we were able to mitigate that fairly quickly, find the shut-off valves, which are difficult at times, but I'm working on that, trying to get everything identified in the schools that I can find. You know, it's difficult based on their age, but we're going to get there to make things a little easier. But we were able to. That was a heater that was in the vestibule between the two doorways going into the rear where the gymnasium is at Valley View. So what happened was, because the temperature went down and that heater wasn't working, that was probably the worst compromised area of the school. So that failed. We lost the pipe inside that heater unit. We were able to stabilize that. We'll have to get that repaired. We also lost a freeze stat went in the gymnasium. It's not a rooftop, but basically the gymnasium heating system, which is isolated from the school. So we were able to maintain a cool temperature. Nothing better than seeing the kids run around in their jackets in gym class, and they have no issues with temperature. So we've had that fixed today. There's a few issues there. Believe it or not, fuses are 6 or 8 months to get them. Supply chain for fuses. So worked most of the evening last night, found 5 fuses. We need 2. Those are going to be, and that's not hampering the ability that the heat is on there. It's just one of the fans is obviously not running because of the fuses. We lost a bunch of fuses because of that issue. So you know, we'll be back online. I was able to find fuses out Midwest, and they'll be here tomorrow. So we're going to have to think ahead on buying some, not an expensive item, maybe to get it here tomorrow, but you know, just stocking some things that now are becoming difficult to get for us for repairs. So I'm looking ahead on that. We also had an incident at 12:30 a.m. Sunday morning. I got a call from Hartford Steam Boiler. We have moisture sensors at the Biz that were part of a free program that they put together a few years ago. We just updated all those moisture sensors. I think in September of this year we did that. Well, come to find out, I got a call saying that one was targeting moisture. So we deployed down to the brownstone, and we had a broken pipe. And that moisture sensor was floating in the puddle that was caused by that. We had a class. It works very well, very well. So I was very happy to get that, because we have no other detection really other than that. So this is a program that I actually reached out today for, to see if we can advance this program into other areas, especially in our boilers, because they have a temperature sensor as well, so that if a boiler goes down and the temperature drops in the boiler, we know it's not running, we can be alerted to go to the school before those things happen. So I'm working on those programs. But we were able to shut that off. It took a bit. We had a little bit of water damage, but nothing permanent. We got that cleaned up by 2:30 or so. We were back at home around that time in the morning. So we're making those little repairs. Luckily enough, we didn't have to call in any insurance, and no damage to the buildings from that water, just a little bit of drying out, and we didn't lose any time in classrooms, which is the most important, or moving any classrooms for that. So thanks to the custodians for working with me at the speed of, that I like to do things, so that worked out well. So the track. So we are there, and I'm happy to report, and I still have to look at budgetary numbers tomorrow, because we didn't get a chance to do that. But as early as this morning, I sent as many construction bid documents that I can find in my old history along to our new consultant, so that he can put the front-end documents together, which he was able to complete today with that information. So I'm happy about that. The bid spec is 222 pages long, and that includes a lot of the prints and miscellaneous legal information, not only what we need to bid. I will have to spend some time reviewing that, but it's off to finance to make sure that it gets a legal check. I'll get it both out to Stephanie and Dr. Britton tomorrow for your review. There is no estimate on price, because he wants to talk with me. There's a few options to go before we kind of get an estimate. He did say it's a little higher than he thought, but then again, we were kind of under that number, in the discussion. Don't know if he's looking at our original number or the extra funding we put in. We'll be talking about that. But that has to go out very soon, so that we can review the bids that come in. It should stay out for at least 2 weeks. And then we have to award that by the 15th of March. So we're getting close. So I was happy to see that it was done today. So hopefully we'll be on time. We'll have to discuss budget, those numbers, the options, and what we select. But all the work has been done. The core boring is the biggest obstacle on the job. What we found for substructure is what's going to add a little money to this job. The whole backside of that track, we core bored through the track up to 5 feet, and there is no virgin soil on that end of the track, meaning that whole backside was fill originally when it was established, which means that's the area that's settling over time, because there's no hard packed virgin soil underneath what they put on top of it to build the first track. So based on all those studies, the geo studies that I looked at, we're looking at 2 options, and I have to decide engineering-wise what the best is. I think option 1, which is stripping the rubber off of the track, taking the existing material that's under it, pulverizing that or reclaiming it and using that as base, considering we paid for it 18 years ago. We should do that. I've had extreme luck with that building roads. Utilizing that material, it's fairly hard. Rather than digging out and bringing new in, we can utilize that and then remove what we need to. So I think that's the option. It's a little less expensive than removing and bringing in all new fill. So I have to look at those numbers. So that'll be some of the work that I'll be doing this week with our consultant engineer to see which direction we're going to go. So hopefully this week we will have an idea so that we're ready to go to bid to see what these numbers come back at and see where we are. Estimates are always usually a little higher. They need to be for our talking points, and hopefully we'll get some good leverage on some bids that people want to be busy early this year. So that's about where we are. If anybody, obviously we'll share it for you to look at the prints, look at the engineering that's been done, to tell us where we are. We got to definitely do new drainage there. We found that some of the drainage is compromised, and that probably is some of the reason why we have moisture that's so much closer to the track, and that's why we get cracking under that subsurface. So we'll be looking at redoing that. I'm a big fan of alternates on bids in the event that we can do more, because prices come in less. So if you don't have alternates to do more on your initial bid, it's very difficult to add them later. So we're going to be looking at alternates for the possible shot put area, which would be moved closer to the bleachers, and alternates for fencing, and then just another area to do with the drainage. So those will give us option based on overall price. If the numbers come in good and we can add some of those alternatives, we will, to make it even, a better facility. That's where we are. Dave?
Is the bid for the whole job? Because I thought the top was the specialized process for a specialized company.
Whole job, they'll contract it out.
Oh, the contract.
Yeah, so depending on who gets the bid, who is awarded the contract, it all depends on what they're specializing in. So lots of times they'll specialize in one part of it, maybe it's the excavation and the ground portion of it, and then they'll just hire in the contractors to do the overlay and the rubberized base and stuff, yeah. And paving, yeah. You can get many, but you'll get one price back.
Okay.
Other questions? for Bob?
Well, because you said that there was the Valley View pipe bursting, there wasn't really any damage to the school, there wasn't like wood or carpeting?
No, we were able to get both machines running to suck the water up at the same time, just putting the hose that the machine was sucking the water up out the door. Yeah, we were just lucky, timing wise. I got there just a little after Sal did, and we were able to get the machines running, and then I was able to get up into the ceiling and trace some pipes back to find an isolation valve, which we were able to just shut the flow of water off. So instantly, we just turned to getting the water off the floor. It's all tile there in that area, and probably 6 or 7 feet into the gym is where the water made it, but we were able to get that up quick.
Oh,
With those machines that we have, the little Zambonis, I call them.
Right.
So,
Those are
as
great.
fast as you can get them around, you can get the water off. So, we don't see any issues drying
That's so
carpet.
fortunate. That's
Yeah, we're fortunate that that area was really not a carpeted area or, so we got lucky there. And Brownstone was, a few ceiling tiles in the basement. It drained down into the maintenance room, directly from the classroom. So we were lucky we had a floor drain where the pipes were going through. And it ended up going there to the basement, and then it was right in front of one of the doors, which had a drain on the other side, on the lower level. So we were, our area didn't grow too big. It was in the hallway a little bit, but we were able to do the same thing with the machines there. And until we can, I tried to make a clamp because I couldn't find the shutoff valve, but that water is 200 degrees, so I had a little difficult time putting my hands on the pipe and trying to get things done, but we made it happen. We found the shutoff finally.
That's great.
So everything's been tagged, so we know where the shutoffs are
Yeah.
moving forward every time we have an incident. We lost an outside faucet at Valley View too at the same time. We were leaving and saw the water flowing there, so we were able to shut that down as well.
Oh, wow.
So that was just another freeze point, rare occasion. Good.
Well, it sounds like all things considered, we were kind of fortunate.
We were.
Somebody's living right.
Yeah.
We
Well,
did good.
I think the good fortune, Bob, is that we have you.
Yeah.
No.
Very high quality.
You have a great
team of
crew, guys, so.
custodians that are here at 2:30 in the
And
morning,
ladies.
freezing
Right.
cold, crawling around the ceiling tiles to fix
Yeah.
these things so that we don't lose instructional time. That's the good fortune that I'm very.
My
very-
staff might not think
Yeah.
I'm crazy. But, no, I can't say enough about the staff, the men and women of the, because they're just willing to go to the,
Yeah.
they just want those places to be good, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, please extend our gratitude.
Yeah, I will.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Bob.
All right, thanks. We'll go dive into it.
Okay, so a couple of things. I want to also make sure that I recognize Joe Santavenir. So Joe Santavenir, as you know, is our correct liaison for our open choice liaison. We have tonight, as you know, 350 people at this UConn basketball game. I'll check the score for you. I've been kind of keeping that 46-29 UConn.
Hey,
Go
it's a good
Huskies,
game.
over number 10 Marquette. But I think that our students are going to be recognized with the things flashing on the billboards are there, and it's great. But this is the hard work. I mean, Joe did put a ton of work coordinating all of this, communicating it, getting the tickets, emailing the tickets out to everybody. And as you know, we do this so that we can have our Portland families interact with our Hartford Open Choice families. It's a wonderful opportunity for our students and Hartford students to meet in Hartford and experience these events. Comes on the heels of, and we'll likely do it again in the spring, the Yard Goats game. And then we did Hartford Athletics in the fall. And all of this, of course, is funded out of the grants that we received for part of our participation with Open Choice. But I'm sure they're having a good time tonight. I'm kind of bummed that we're here doing this as opposed to
Agreed.
having fun at the UConn game. But Well, we'll be at the Argos game. We'll make sure we won't schedule those on the Facebook board. So thank you to Joe for putting that together. I know it's a lot of work coordinating all that, but I'm sure they're having an awful lot of fun. A couple other things I just wanted to, reflect on with you and, extend some gratitude both to Mr. Hershon and to Jesse Ravicki for organizing. There was an incredibly powerful presentation called Ryan's Story. And if you just Google it, next time I've got it here in front of me. It was this father who came and spoke first with the parents of middle school and Brownstone parents, and then all of our students in grades 6, 7, and 8, and recounted his experience with his son who took his own life and online bullying. It was a very, very moving, very powerful presentation, and I can tell you could have heard a pin drop. And I know our students got the right message there, which is treat each other kindly, treat each other with the respect that we all deserve, and in those cases where you are witnessing acts of bullying or are perceiving it, be an upstander. Don't be a bystander. And that was really the message of it, beyond the tragedy that this gentleman experienced with his son Ryan. The message there was very redeeming, and I know it was impactful. I saw a lot of moved students during that event, and I know that it went well with our parents the evening before. That was a collaboration between the middle school and Portland Youth Services, so I really want to extend our gratitude to Jesse and Mr. Hershon for finding this program, bringing it to us, and I think it sparked a really important conversation at the middle school and with our 6th grade students at Brownstone. Did any of you get to see the parent presentations? No, you didn't?
I wasn't able to make it.
Well, Google it. Take a look. Next time you're in front of Googling for a few minutes, Google Ryan's story, and you'll see this somebody who's taken a tragedy and clearly made something beneficial or helpful for the rest of us out of it. So thank you, Mr. Hershon and Jesse, for putting that together. Then that same week, we are part of this school-based diversion grant, receiving quite a bit of money. This is a grant that Mr. Hershon and Eric Martin wrote. So last week, on Thursday and Friday, Portland Middle School hosted, I'm going to say about 125 educators from around the state that came to hear to a 2-day in-service on restorative justice, on restorative practices. These are efforts that where traditional, call them disciplinary, traditional modes of consequences are more exclusionary, to suspend, detend, in-school suspension, punish. The restorative approach is way more healing, way more relationship-based. Now, restorative practices aren't in and of itself a panacea, but it's another tool in the tool belt. And I did get up to, particularly I spent a good part of the day Thursday and only a little bit of Friday. I had many things going on, particularly I have the good news about this grant I received, which got a lot of my attention. But what I did see, it was very powerful, and it was wonderful to see all of the educators from across the state there. Again, I want to give a shout out to Eric and to Mr. Hershon for getting us the SBDI grant, and then of course for all of the educators across the state who came here to learn about those restorative practices. If you want to know more about that, I'm happy to share with you, but I do see it as a really important opportunity for us to continue to address students in a healing relationship-based way. I thought that was a very nice sort of dovetail, and it got me reflecting a lot about many of the things we're doing district-wide in the name of diversity, equity, inclusion, positive school climate, and things we're doing. It's not all perfect. It doesn't always work great, but I see lots of efforts, reflected both in Ryan's story, in the restorative practices, in See Something, Say Something that we have up and running at the middle school, in our SEL curriculum that we've now rolled out. It's called Second Step in grades K through 8. In our partnership with the National Conference for Community and Justice, which is the Bridges program, which is the student-based leadership training we're doing with kids to help equip them with the skills to promote a positive school climate. With the PD that's focused on, again, building positive school climate. We're doing a lot of that work through CREC. And then, of course, with our ongoing PBIS, Positive Behavior Supports, and the DESA screener that we're rolling out this year to help identify students. It's a sort of mental health screener. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we're doing an awful lot. Right? I see a lot of movement and a lot of things being done. Yeah, it's, in many cases, it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's the kind of work, but it is progress. You know, it is forward momentum, and these are exciting things. Now, of course, my big, you know, piece of excitement for tonight is, of course, none of these things would be possible if not for a talented team of clinicians and mental health professionals shepherding, stewarding these practices. And as you know, this year we are blessed because we've been applying our ESSER funds to make sure that we have clinicians and mental health professionals in all of our schools. One of the things we funded last year, our funding this year, and had planned to use our ESSER funds for next year was for us to maintain a full-time social worker at the middle school. So earlier this year, we learned of a grant that was put out there for a mental health support. So I want to thank Dawn, I want to thank Chuck, and of course Stephanie for helping me put together the grant. We submitted it to the state, 92 districts. It was a competitive grant, put in their applications for this, and we were one of 20 that received the grant. And I know that Tricia shared the press release with you. So I'm very excited about that. That means we're getting $117,000 this year, $117,000 next year, and then $80,000 the year after. So, short term, for this year's budget, and Stephanie's gonna give you her report tonight. We've been talking to you a lot this year about a deficit we've been projecting. Well, we're in pretty good shape now. Right? So, not only because of this grant, but because of other things that are going in our favor. You know, sometimes the fiscal winds blow in our direction, sometimes they blow against us. Up until about 3 weeks ago, it was a headwind. Now we got the wind in our sails. Right? So Stephanie's gonna talk to you tonight about how we've climbed our way out. This certainly helps that. So the $117,000 we're getting this year is going to be applied towards the benefits and the salary for that social worker, which will allow us to apply the ESSER funds we would have otherwise spent for that to ledger out the paraprofessionals we added. Right? So, as you know, this year we added paraprofessionals, we added a kindergarten teacher, we increased our ELL teacher, we increased sub-pay. We did add some known deficits, and then of course that layers on top of some of Dawn's expenses that we know we've been managing in our support services. But this certainly helps us get out and into a very good fiscal position where, you know, at this point, if we were to end the fiscal year, we would land it on budget or potentially with a surplus. Now, we still have 5 months to go. Stephanie's gonna watch those numbers carefully and give you her report tonight. But I'm delighted that we learned that we got those funds this year, so they're impacting this year's budget. And it's going to invite a discussion this spring about how we now reapply those ESSER funds that are available for next year. And I'm certainly not prepared tonight, I'm sort of digesting this. I'm not prepared to make any recommendations yet. But it's an exciting opportunity for us to figure how we'll spend out those COVID relief dollars in the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
That was a lot, but it all kind of dovetailed together.
It does, it does. That's really exciting news about the grant, and
Yeah.
congratulations, Charles.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Are there questions for Charles about anything that he just presented on? There's a lot.
Okay.
No?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Thank you for that update.
Of course.
Stephanie got a financial report this evening.
So Charles basically said most of it. He always gets to say the good news.
Ah,
I was at the doom and gloom. But really, it's everything that Charles just said. You know, it was 2 weeks ago when I was looking at a $400,000 deficit and not happy. We met, went over a few things, kind of came up with what if situations, and then a week later we hired the speech teacher, so that significantly helped what the end of the Cheshire Fitness contract would be. So that helped with that. And then when we found this out on Friday, it gave us a good weekend. You know, we're not gonna go on a spending frenzy, but, you know, we're still gonna try and stay as minimal as we can, because we now, fortunately, hopefully, we'll be able to do a Fund 11 transfer, a lunch fund transfer, end of year purchases. But again, it's February 7th at 7:44. So anything could change tomorrow. So as of right now, we are doing good.
So you've eliminated the $400,000 deficit?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
Because I just heard 117,000.
Well,
For
this
this
was our
year.
doom and gloom prior.
What's that?
This is the doom and gloom that we had right before we hired the speech teacher. So I was able to take away the contracted
So that
services.
set aside that was there to cover those services
The
if they
services
had
for
them
Cheshire
decided
Fitness.
that,
That was 300,000.
that's the other.
It was about $250,000, and, because we
How
still
much?
have to keep some contracted to carry over, sorry, Dawn. We had to keep some dollars in there, for additional help or whatever, but, so I went, 400 went down to about 117, or no, I'm sorry, about 129. And then the 117 came in, a few other things came into line. We got, ESSER 2 homeless transportation grant. I just happened to click on something to draw
fabulous.
down and saw we had $5,800. So it was another $5,800 that we got. Open choice, we still haven't found out. We know we have 70 students, but we also receive additional funds, depending on how many students we have per grade, per class. So there's always a little addition that comes in after that I don't know about. So I'm again, February 7th, 7:45. We're doing okay.
Let's not break the corks on the champagne right now.
5 months left. And other things, like, it's been a warm winter, right?
Well, yeah, and we're still looking into the gas bill issue. We have not gotten the next. There's been an issue with the diesel reading for the gas, for the buses. So I'm still waiting. I think we're only up till November, so I think we still need December and January to see. But like I said, we were averaging about $9,000 a month for gas. Another piece that also helped with the deficit was some of the IDA grant funds. We still have, I don't know if everybody knows, but IDA grant is 2 years, so we have a carryover year and a current year. And Portland's been fortunate enough to only do 1 year at a time. Most districts have to tap into their current year one. We started maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago, going a little bit in to help with offset some of the paraprofessionals that we've added in. This year, we have about $25,000 that we can use for purchase services so that I can put towards some of the extra additional services that we've encountered. So that was another about $25,000 that I was able to draw out of the deficit with that. And then we also still have, we haven't gone into the current year IDEA as well. So we have that kind of sitting there too. So, any questions?
Got the wind in her back. Let's go.
That's good news.
February 7th, 7:47.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, Dawn, Director of Student Services report. I think we're ready for you. Oh.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It's good to see you all.
Me too.
I have really good news in my update. It is lots of good positive stuff, and you've heard 2/3 of it already between Charles and Stephanie, so I'll be really quick. The first thing is, let me just give you a quick rundown on our numbers. And if you remember last year, I started talking with you about the percentage of students that were identified with having special education needs, and I was talking about some of our grade levels were really high percentages. I think 3rd and 4th grade last year were in the 28-29%. I don't want to say that we fixed it all the way, but we definitely are trending toward flatlining off. But right now we have 247 students in the district with IEPs. That's 20% of our entire population, which is a little bit higher than our pre-COVID percentages, which were more in the 14-15% range, but still I think we're shortening off nicely. We have 94 students with 504 plans. Those are for accommodations and modifications based upon their disability. And we have 58 students that qualify as English language learners. So overall, overall that's a total of 399 students in the district that are receiving some kind of support. which is, and that doesn't include our survey, that doesn't include anything else. This is just kids that are getting state mandated or federally mandated protections and instruction. So it's about 33% of our district is getting some kind of support, either as an English language learner, 504 accommodations, or special education. So our numbers are steady. I think we had a really huge identification rate last year, and it just rolled. It steamrolled uphill all the way to June, and it just kept building and building. So I think we're in a much better place. The only place I'm worried right now, and I'm planting this seed because I am the birth to 3 coordinator for the district, so I see everybody coming down the pike. I'm getting information on 18-month-olds and 2-year-olds and sharing that with Jessica and the team at Valley View. But we have a high population of needs, or a high percentage of students with special needs coming to us towards their 3rd birthday. And some of those needs are pretty significant. Children that are hard of hearing, or children that require walkers and medical needs that are, going to carry over into the school environment. So we'll keep our watch. We have 19 students in preschool right now that receive special ed services, and they're pretty spread between the 4 sections, 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. But we do have a good handful of kiddos that are still coming our way that we know about. That doesn't include students moving into the district and everything. So, and we're a little nervous. We have a pending maternity leave in pre-K, and we're trying to fill that. So it's it's a busy time for pre-K between now and June. Of course, we wish Dina Judd, one of our preschool teachers, all the best. But at the same time, we've got a full house there. So that's where we're working right now in that. Any question on those numbers?
Dawn, I'm curious to know from previous years how closely the number of students with identified needs from the Birth to 3 program match what you're actually seeing when they come to preschool.
I mean, how many children actually are identified?
Yeah, like, are you getting surprises, or is what you know coming from Birth to 3 now a pretty good predictor of what we'll see?
No, unless they
preschool?
move in or out of district, because Birth to 3 does that nice job with the transition planning and all of that. So we have a pretty good handle on who's coming in.
Okay.
But the surprises, of course, are the people that come in, or late referrals, which we've had a couple of those in December as well. So.
Okay.
But I'm not painting doom and gloom at this point, because our numbers always creep up this time of year for our preschool classes. They start out with nice small numbers. They've got their pre-described typical peers, and then they've got a handful of students with IEPs. But then we know that builds as we go throughout the year, and that's also new referrals coming into the district in addition to Birth to 3. So, okay. Does that answer your question, Sarah? Great.
Dawn, can I ask a quick question about when you're seeing kind of an increased number of children in Birth to 3, anticipating possibly an increase in the number of preschool students in the future? Is there a consideration for what a threshold might be for where we would need to increase our preschool sections? Is that something that you're considering at this point, or that you have in your mind, or we're not there yet?
I don't think we're at a threshold. I think what makes me more nervous than anything right now is the intensity of need. I think that's probably more so. Our numbers aren't that big, and they'll be manageable, but it's an intensity of need. So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And one of the things that we'll also look at sometimes when we're talking at PPT meetings for students that are in that 3 to 5 range, we offer half-day only programming. But sometimes kids are coming with such a significant need that it would be better for them to be in full-day programming. And so if anything, that might be a place where I come back to the board in the future and say, for some of these children, it might be better for them to be in a full-day program. So maybe half-day in the regular preschool, and then half-day perhaps like in the ABA lab. So we're looking very carefully at all of that.
Thank you.
All right. The good news is we're keeping them in district. And they come, and it's fun when I talk to parents at their Birth to 3 transition meeting, and they're like, oh yeah, we know all about Valley View. We go play on the playground, and we walk our dog there, and all those types of things. So it's a welcoming opportunity for them. And then one last number I wanted to give you is our special programs across the district. That's life skills and bridges and all of those different programs. We have 61 students in those programs. So that's holding nice and solid from where it was last month as well. So the next thing I have then is staffing updates. As you knew, we've been struggling to attract a speech language pathologist. We lost our speech language pathologist in October when she resigned, and we have been really fortunate to have 4 wonderful SLPs come from Cheshire Fitness. They've done a great job, but as we know, anytime, just like anything else, when we contract with an outside business, we have to pay all of those costs, and it winds up being a lot more. So that's one of the biggest issues. And then the other is that, of course, we much rather prefer to have our SLPs on our staff. So we were lucky enough about a month and a half ago that a young lady applied to be our new SLP, and she's actually a Portland student, a Portland child. So she grew up in Portland. She looks like she's still growing up. She's very young, or maybe I'm just looking through old eyes. But I'm just, I walked her around as she began her career here last week, and she fit right in with the high schoolers size-wise. So, but her name is Jillian McKinley, and she joined us beginning last week, and is hit with the ground with her feet running, and she's very excited. She's learning CT SEDS, and she's getting a good turnover from the Cheshire Fitness people. So when Stephanie spoke about some residual funds that we're still going to need for Cheshire Fitness, we didn't want a cold turkey to bring Jillian and just say, okay, you're up and running, and of course we would lose some traction with making up those hours that we owed some of our students. So Cheshire Fitness is phasing out through next week, and they'll be leaving us. The last place I will leave somebody in Cheshire Fitness for a little bit longer, as well as at the middle school, high school, because we're still making up some of those hours at Gildersleeve and Brownstone. So Jillian is focused on Gildersleeve and Brownstone. As you know, we have Michelle Wright as our wonderful speech pathologist at Valley View, and then we're going to keep our Cheshire Fitness person on for a little bit longer at the secondary school, and we're excited to have Jillian with us. And she remembers all these buildings, except for the high school. She didn't go to Portland High School, but she, as she walked around, she was all excited to see some old friends and familiar faces. So I felt like she knew more people in the schools than I did. It was kind of cute. So that's one new staff member. The other new staff member is, as we know, Kristen Levesque was our life skills teacher, and she resigned in December. And I went into a panic. I was like, my goodness, well, we're going to find a teacher in the middle of the year. But the God smiled upon us, and we were able to hire Brianna Paskowitz, who was looking for a new position. And she is a wonderful fit with our life skills team. This afternoon, after the high school dismissed, I spent a good hour and a half with her and the paras in the program, and they're all excited to be working together and have great ideas for the program. Brianna comes to us from another school district, but she's a fairly new teacher too. And she's got great ideas, great experiences through her collegiate and first 2 years of teaching, a lot of experiences that she's bringing to the table. So we're excited to see what happens in the life skills program. So very lucky on both those counts. Funding. These are two things that I'll speak to just very quickly. Yes, the ESSER funds for homeless. That was something that we found out, I think, during the summer that we would qualify for. We put in for it, just came through, and that's really been helpful because we do have a number of families that are impacted through homelessness. And one of the biggest issues that we work for, and that costs us the biggest amount of money, is the ability to transport them back to their either back to Portland if they're staying in another town, or other kids are staying in Portland that come from another town. And the way we do that is they have to submit a form. The family submits a form and declaring themselves homeless, so that we know to make sure that they get all of the supports that they need: free and reduced lunch, transportation, ed stability, so that they can stay in their schools that they would be in otherwise, if that's appropriate, or to be able to get registered right away in the new school where they've landed, to make sure that they don't miss out on any of their educational time. So we have right now about 16 families that are experiencing homelessness in one way or another. And they're not all Portland families. Some of them are families that might perhaps live in Glastonbury, but the only place they could find right now while they're homeless is to stay on the couch of somebody in Portland. So we have situations like that. Once a family's applied for that, then we work with the families and the district that we're sharing with the child, or sharing the child with, and we split the transportation. So I tell you, that has been a tremendous feat with the shortage of transportation still out there. We're really lucky with our buses. We've got plenty of large bus transportation and our small bus transportation. But when it comes to driving to a town a couple towns away, picking up 1 or 2 children and getting them back here to Portland, those things are really, really difficult to find right now. So our office works really hard to make sure that gets taken care of. So to find out that just last week that we received those ESSER funds for homeless the reason we wrote the grant was for homeless transportation. So it was exciting to get that. So the other thing is, and this is brand new, the ink is still drying on the applications, but there is a CT SEDS implementation stipend that was just released a few days ago, and we have to apply for it. It's through the grant system, and we are qualified as a medium school district based on the number of IEPs that we have. So we're eligible for $15,000 for this stipend. Dr. Britton and I have started to explore what we're going to do with those funds and how we're going to use them to offset some of the work that's been done for CT SEDS in the district. It's been a big uplifting, as we've talked about, and I'm excited. We're about halfway through all of our IEPs and 504 plans getting into CT SEDS, which is huge because that means all of our staff is really well trained and working through all of the ups and downs, and I couldn't be more prouder of a group of professionals to get all of this done. It's no small feat, and they're doing a beautiful job of it. So we'll have more at next month's report to tell you what we're doing with that stipend.
And I'm sorry, how much was that again?
15,000.
15,000.
Yeah. And is that a competitive grant, or essentially once you
No,
submit the application, it's guaranteed?
it's guaranteed. Yeah, as long as we do the application right. As long as we do the application right, as compared to 20 districts out of 92 getting them for the other. This is
That's great.
so it's exciting, and it's a good way to put some supports back in. So
That's great.
I just have a question. CT says, how is that going? Have the bugs been kind of worked out of that at this point? Is it more manageable, or is it still a source of?
I will tell you honestly, Meg, it depends on who you ask and when you ask us.
Okay.
Because I mean, I will tell you right now, we're at the point where we're worrying closely about compliance now and getting IEP, we're to the point that we can look to make sure all of our IEPs are getting out on time and not just drafts and things like that.
Okay.
So we have tightened up really nicely. And like I said, 50 out of the 250 IEPs that we have and the 94 504 plans, half of them are already are put through that.
Okay.
There are I attended a meeting this afternoon, and they're continually changing. They're continually fixing things. I was thinking back years ago. The platform we just left was called Frontline. It was the old original IEP Direct. And I remember when they rolled it out to districts, it was competitive because they were competing for our business with all these other companies. And they brought us out. They fed us lunch. They brought us to a training. It was free to all the districts that were buying in, and everything was done and perfect. So you were just logging into this polished program. You had no problems with it. Well, it wasn't that way with CT SEDS, and CT SEDS wasn't competing with anybody. Everybody in Connecticut has to use it. So they're working through the bumps. But to their credit, every week we go to an online to an online discussion group with the folks from PCG, which is the company that built the program, as well as the CSDE and their representatives, and where they tell us what's been worked through. For example, a big issue we've been having is parents not getting notification through the portal when we would send something out, because the whole design is for if I have your child's IEP and I finish it and I hit send, you get an email that says, Meg Scata, please log on and look at this paperwork. That wasn't going out to parents. So one of the updates today was they've done some fixes, and it should be working like with 99% accuracy now. So those things continue to upgrade and move forward that way. So, but like I said, it depends on who you ask and what day you ask, because teachers are they're faster at it now than they were 2 months ago, and 2 months ago they were faster when they did their first IEP or their first 504 plan. So everybody's getting more comfortable with
I know it wasn't the data being put in, it was really the platform that was faulty, and there were numerous complaints, so
Yeah.
hopefully they've diminished a bit.
Yeah, and our staff, we were really fortunate. We're a small enough district. All of our staff last summer, all of our special ed staff was able to do the quality IEP training, which was a 9-module training, really getting us ready for the new IEP form
The
itself.
forms itself.
We didn't have the real form to work with, but the hypothetical form. But because all of our staff was able to do that, I think they hit the ground running as far as being able to write goals and objectives and all of that. But you're right, it's the platform itself that was problematic.
Okay.
So, but we're getting through it, and we'll get to the other side, and
Yeah.
it'll be a different story.
Yeah.
So, any other questions on that? Those two funding sources. Alrighty. I just have a quick couple of other things. Our next project, because you guys know me, I love projects, and we had spoke during the budget process about the idea that we have these 6 young adults that need transition programming, and it's not appropriate to have our students during their transition years at 18 to 22 years to be just doing a couple more years of high school. We need to build a program for them. So we have begun the groundwork to start our transition academy. Dr. Britton and I went before the Christmas break, went and visited the Middlesex Transition Academy in Middletown. They're on the Wesleyan campus, and they're great because they've been up and running for many, many years. They've got all the issues and kinks that we're anticipating. They've got all worked out, so it was a great resource for us to be able to go over and tour that. And our next steps are to be looking at our town and be thinking about what do we have for facilities that we could use in the town here. I'll give you an example. Right now, we have 2 young ladies that they're in their beginning of their transition years, and they do some of their days are carried out down here, right in this actual building, and they come down near Jesse Ravicki's office, and they do some work there, and then they also go to the library and to the post office and all the parts of their town that is real and actual. So they're able to do that. So that as we look to build this program, we're looking for a site that will be able to house roughly 6 young adults and a few paras and a teacher, and then be able to build that up. So the next step, besides having this goal and this dream, is we're putting together a committee. And a couple of the parents from some of these students are interested in being on the committee, as well as we'll be looking to, involve other people. And then in the other pieces, we will be, we'll have to be thinking about the teacher that takes on that role. The teacher that we just hired, Brianna, that we hired for the life skills program, will stay the life skills teacher. She'll stay in Portland High School, middle school, and be the teacher there. Whereas the transition teacher is somebody off-site and is running around to jobs and recreational programs and all of those things, all of the activities that young adults do, getting ready for their exit from the school district on their 22nd birthday. So more information to follow on that.
I have one question. Is the reasoning for that program to be outside of the high school to make it easier to travel to various community locations?
It's really mandated by the state. It's mandated because a transition program should be something based in a community, not based in a high school.
Okay.
So that's the whole purpose. The fact that it's closer to the bus line, if we wind up on Main Street, for example, closer to the bus line for public transportation and all of those pieces, that will be icing on the cake. But the idea is that is part of the state mandates for transition programming.
Thanks.
So is that like you're looking to rent space, or are we looking to do something where the space is donated, or?
It depends. I mean, I'd love to have it donated, but it's going to be dependent upon what we decide we need for space and what's available. That will be part of our search. And if anybody from the board would like to be part of those discussions, I will keep that information coming out.
It's
Thank you, Dawn.
All right, it is exciting. I know. I had to build one more project. Yeah, and that's all I have for tonight. Any other questions? All right, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Dawn.
There was a audio issue during our initial communications update, and we missed the initial communications of resignations. We don't have that until.
Okay, it's in the minutes, right?
Someone was asking for you to repeat it.
So specifically, just the part that said the,
Initial communications and resignations.
okay, so, yeah, wait, you want me to quickly repeat those?
Sure.
Yeah,
Do we
so,
need a motion?
let me go back. So, we did submit in the communications to the board 2 emails from parents, specifically parents in the life skills program, commending Ms. Levesque, who's left us, for the hard work that she's done. And then we did have a resignation from a individual named Ms. Roden, who was serving in the capacity as long-term sub for our counseling department. The only other communication I was referencing was we had the enrollment report for February. Those were the 3 communications. Is that what you missed?
All right, thank you. I believe we can move on to new business, and item A is the open choice seats for 2023 and 2024.
Sure. So, let me quickly review what this is, and I sent you a bunch of, sort of Q&A, so we had some questions tonight, and some of them touched on the open choice. So, let me sort of lay this out, just to give you a snapshot of what seats we're declaring, right, and then what seats we're keeping. So, if you look at the memo I sent you, just follow with me for a moment. Like, look at first grade in the column headed where we are now. Right? We currently have in first grade 8 open choice students. If you look at next year, you'll see in second grade we have 8 students, right? Same thing, if you look at third grade, we currently have 5 open choice students. Next year, fourth grade, 5 open choice students. So these aren't new seats. These are our current open choice students who we don't have any reason to believe, but will stay with us, right? The only new seats that we're proposing are that for kindergarten, we offer 10 seats. Now, Jessica will tell you and I will tell you, we never fill 10 seats in open choice. This year we only had, if you look, 2. Yes, we want to start our students as early as possible, but you know, it's a lot to ask for a parent to put a 5-year-old on the bus from Hartford here every day. We do get some, so we would declare 10. I think at most I've ever seen in kindergarten is 4 or 5. First grade, excuse me, picks up a little more. So we currently have 2 kindergarten students, excuse me. Our recommendation is that we open 3 additional seats in first grade, so that the net gain of seats would be the 10 kindergarten students and 3 first grade. That's if they all filled, which past being what it is, they won't, right? They won't. So if you follow my math here, there are 2 open choice students in 12th grade. We anticipate that they will graduate. We anticipate that all of the open choice students will come back next year, so 70 minus 2 will be 68. Then if you add the 10 open choice seats in kindergarten that we declare, that will get us from 68 to 78. Then if you add the 3 additional open choice seats in first grade, that gets us to the 81. Everybody follow my math on that?
Sure.
So what I'm asking for your permission to declare is 81 seats, which are the 68 of our current students returning, 10 seats in kindergarten, which I doubt will all fill, but they might, 3 additional seats at first grade, so we can bring our first grade numbers from what is 2 to 5, right? And then I'm gonna ask for an additional couple of seats that we say for our older grades, for our students in, I know I put 2012, it was supposed to be grades 2-12, right? For our students in grades 2-12, we would say if there's a sibling out there, because that makes it very convenient for families, and we have had a couple sibling requests come in, that we say, if you have a sibling that is in another school now and wants to join the sibling here in Portland, we would have 3 seats open for those. So if you add all that up, the total number is 85. What do I think we're really gonna have next year? At least 68, and I'm hoping 70, because that's the number that we're counting on in terms of our fiscal outlays. Right. That was a lot. I wanna pause there and see if there are any questions.
I don't understand it.
Okay.
So you have to declare more seats than you think you're going to get.
So when we declare seats, what we're saying is, we're only declaring seats now in kindergarten and first grade. We're declaring, we have these openings, right? That students will see that they have in this whole new online lottery thing where they go, families from Hartford can go in and pick, you know,
Mm.
Glastonbury, Avon, Magna School, Portland, you know, they rank order, and then they go through this lottery. We will say we're opening 10 students, seats for kindergarten, 3 seats for first grade.
Mhm.
That's all.
Because the rest of the seats are
The rest
occupied
of the
by,
seats are
currently by
occupied.
students.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
The rest of the seats are what?
They're occupied by students.
Right, right.
Seats are taken,
Yeah.
right, so we're only gonna declare, in terms of new seats, 13 openings, 10
Right.
kindergarten, 3 first grade. Every other seat is full, right, except we'll put the carve out that if it's a sibling request, we'll do that. So, you know, that Portland's past has always been start the students as early as we can. Open the seats at Valley View, and then all of the other students, generally, those are students who started with us, you know, at this point are working their way, matriculating their way through up, including the 2 we have on track to graduate this year.
You said, Dave? You're all set?
Dave,
No,
I
just,
would
again,
clarify.
did we offer 10 this year and we only got 2?
Yes. Yeah,
But there's a chance 10 people could sign up and we would have to take them.
yeah, it's never happened before, but.
I personally would probably say, why don't we stick with a lower number, like 5? Like, if you think it's gonna be 4 or 5, let's make it 4 or 5. Let's not shoot for the stars and then, you know, what if, so. I mean, but, yeah, that's just my opinion.
And I think, if I could pick up on that thread, is I think past years aren't really a good indicator of this year and into the future, because there was significant legislation passed that re-emphasizes and it encourages, and you might want to say, gives a pretty good shove to have students move out of the Hartford district into the surrounding open choice districts. Just in the paper in the last couple of weeks, I saw 2 articles that, you know, so I think if we're saying, well, we'll declare the seats, but they probably won't really get filled, I suspect that's not going to be the case this year. I think it's a stronger case to be made that we will see, because the district is going to be, I think, working very assertively with families to move along the process of moving students out of the Hartford district, because that's been the whole goal all along, and the most recent legislation and court case all led to emphasize that, to push that further forward. So and really my only concern, and I said in an email to you, was that taking students at the higher grade, and I guess when you talk about only sibling requests, are those numbers that aren't known to us? Because I would suspect that we would know if there's siblings, if we have students here who have siblings in the school district in Hartford still that might want to come, and then, you know, there'd be some ability to kind of estimate that, rather than just kind of throw open the door and say, well, we'll see what happens.
No, he's capping it. He's capping it at, you said 3. He said he would cap it at 3, open 3 seats potentially for siblings.
Right, we would
maybe,
declare
if they were
opening for
interested.
any grade level,
Mhm.
and, you know, as you know, any student that gets sent our way is ours.
Mhm.
There's no process on that, other than, you know, we accept them and provide whatever services they need. I just think it's a lot more difficult when you have students come in, you know, junior year, senior year, sophomore year, who've never been in a small town school district, and that's the reason why, when this whole started, you know, years ago, because we got in trouble with funding with the state on construction for the high school. You know, the emphasis was on lower grades, that we would keep in the lower grades, and that would really help the entire process move forward in a much better fashion.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you asked Jessica Brown, in her conversations with parents of kindergarten students from Hartford, we are getting, more kids want to come in first grade than kindergarten. Kindergartners, you know, they're very little. I mean, it's a lot
Yeah.
to put a 5-year-old.
That hasn't
blah, blah,
changed
blah.
since I was a
very
dad.
little.
I mean, you're asking a lot of a
Right.
parent in Hartford to put their 5-year-old on a bus to drive them
Yeah.
45 minutes every day.
Yeah,
Right.
You
that's
know,
a lot.
It's a lot, and you know, I don't think, I've seen, most of the years I've seen growth has been in first grade. I think parents start to get more comfortable in first grade, you know, with that than kindergarten. You know, I mean, if you think about it, it's only really been 5 years now, Dawn, right? Since full-day kindergarten has been the norm in most districts. I know when my son was in kindergarten, it was only half-day, right? I mean, so, again, could those 10 seats fill? They could. Would I expect they will? I don't. You know, could we put it at 5? We could. I mean,
So I guess, to Tim's point, say we get 10 kids enrolled in kindergarten. If we're able to accommodate that many children and, you know, I guess, you know, let's play that scenario out, Charles. We get 10
yeah,
students
'cause,
to
I mean,
enroll in
if you
kindergarten,
look at it
then
here,
what?
that, you know, the only other one is 6th grade. There's some. There's even closer than that. But in 10th grade, I mean, if we had 10 kindergartners enroll, you know, we would have to be looking at how many students, you know, enroll this spring and summer, right? We've, you know, budgeted for 5. You know, we will make sure that kindergarten class sizes, kindergarten being what it is, and that those classes only have one paraprofessional heading into next year as a support, right? We don't do classroom aides. We'll make sure that the class sizes are reasonable, which might mean I come and ask you for that extra kindergarten teacher. But, hey, if that were to happen, it would mean because there were 10 open choice students, which would bring in $100,000 in revenue to us, which is exactly how we're paying for this year's kindergarten teacher.
Right.
Right, I mean, we're ledgering our, 70 and I wrote in our Q&A, where's the money going to for open choice? One of the places is, we added the kindergarten teacher this year for 6 sections of kindergarten. That's how we're paying for it. We increased our ELL teacher from 0.5 to 0.5 or 0.6, to 1.0. That's how we're paying for this. If, you know, so the funding would be there if we needed to add the 6th kindergarten section because we had 10 Hartford open choice students joining us in kindergarten.
Yeah. So 2 things. I think it's really great to open seats for siblings. If we have children who are coming to us in Portland who are loving their experience and whose families are so delighted with their experience here that they want their siblings to have the opportunity to come to school here too, I think that's wonderful. And I think if we're able to accommodate 3 more children that way, that's great. I don't have a problem with the number 10 in kindergarten if you're saying to us, we can accommodate 10 students in kindergarten. If that would potentially, next you're also saying we're not gonna get 10, but I'm saying if we do get 10, as long as you're confident that we can accommodate that number, then I'm comfortable with that. But if you're saying if we get 10 students, it's gonna cause, you know, problems, then, or we're not able to accommodate that, then I would agree, let's lower the number. But otherwise, if you're comfortable with the number 10, then I think I can be on board with that.
I would just add that the Chef O'Neill ending that court case, the dust was settling last year. A lot of parents didn't know that they were opening up extra seats in Hartford in some of the correct schools. So I think this year, because Portland has done such a great job with our open choice kids, parents will be looking for other options, you know, knowing the full rollout of the legislation. So we may end up with 8 or 10 kids, and I hope we do. That's a great place to start them.
This is a really minor point, but if you're opening up 3 seats for siblings, would the total be 84, not 85?
Yes. Okay, that's my math too, Sarah.
So I have 81, 3 seats, 84. You're correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Good catch.
But can I just ask quickly, the target it's not like we're trying to reach 84 or 85 as a target number. You're just looking at what we currently have in terms of our students who are joining us from Hartford and the number of seats you are comfortable opening in kindergarten, plus the addition of siblings if they're interested, and that's how we're arriving at 84.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's a great number.
Yeah, and it's, yes. And I think that's, yes, yeah.
Okay.
I would just say for me that I think the 10 kindergarten and the 2 first grade, that's right. That's very much in alignment with what our district wanted to do and proposed to do, and we should continue to do. I think the 3 sibling, the unknown variable of not knowing what grade level those students would come in at, that to me is troublesome. And it would be better to not do that.
Not do the sibling.
Not to do the sibling piece, not unless we could declare for only lower grades. and that you felt we had the capacity in order to do that.
Yeah, what's interesting about the sibling is it would likely go like, I wouldn't even declare the siblings. I mean, because they're not, that would mean identifying a grade level and opening the extra seat. But what I would like is that, hey, if Open Choice calls me and says, you have a student in 4th grade who has a sibling that would like to come to your school, the flexibility to say, yes. But it's not, that's not a declaration of a seat, it's I want to be able to say to Open Choice, hey, we're opening 10 seats in kindergarten and 3 additional seats for our 1st graders. Those are the new ones, that's it. But if you have a sibling out there, call me.
Did I misunderstand? Because I thought the language you proposed was that we would declare a total of 80, well, maybe now 84. It was 85. That we, well, it was 85, but now we're saying we would declare
Yeah, I would say,
80.
so let me
Or
back.
81.
We're gonna declare 10 seats. My recommendation, we can bring that number down if you're more comfortable with it. 10 kindergarten, 10 new seats in kindergarten, 3 1st grade. Everything else is not declared, they're current students. And then I'm just asking for a recognition that if I get a call from Craig saying there's a sibling request above 1st grade, that I'm authorized.
I think it just might be the language in the proposed motion where it says declare up to.
Sure.
So
yeah.
maybe that
Right,
word
that's,
is
yeah.
what is
Yes, really, I
the
guess
struggle. I don't,
maybe the language should be then to declare 10 seats in kindergarten, about 3
Right,
seats.
additional.
10 new seats in kindergarten.
Right.
3 new seats in 1st grade, and then the flexibility for up to 3 sibling requests if they come up. But in terms of what we're, actually, no, I would even stop it there. You know, the declaration is the seats we're gonna open.
right.
The question is, you know, what happens when we get a call that, hey, you have a student in 2nd grade who has a sibling who would like to come to you? Is that a hard no? Or?
So maybe the motion is we're declaring, what we're declaring, and then able to accept up to a total of, if we were to receive a
Sibling
sibling request.
Correct. I think that's a good clarification.
Write that down again.
So just to
Something
clarify, if we got 10 kids in kindergarten, you would not have to add a teacher.
That depends on how many Portland residents.
Depends on who else shows up.
Because one of my thoughts, thinking outside, they say, yeah, this is great, 10 sign up, and then after 2 months, they say, this is ridiculous, putting my kid on the bus, and half of them drop out, and we've already hired a teacher, and now, what do we do?
Our funding is based on our enrollment numbers as of October 1.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But our funding goes away if the kids go away, right?
How many kids have we actually lost? I think we haven't.
Well, yeah,
I mean, they,
We don't
one
lose
or two,
funding.
but it's not.
We don't lose funding. If they're here on October 1 and they withdraw October 2, we still get the funding.
For the whole year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the opposite too. If students come in, we don't get 10,000 for them either.
Yeah. I was just throwing it out there. I'm all for the open choice, because I've been here for many years, and I know we were in the low 50s at one point. So we've gradually, every year, increased this. So we've been, I think, doing our fair share. And I think this is a 20% increase over last year. I just, to me, as a numbers guy, that just feels aggressive. And I don't want it to be based on us making more money as a sole reason. That we don't anticipate what is this gonna cost us as far as any additional resources down the road someplace. And I think I asked this to Dawn a couple of years ago, that if any of them have special needs, that cost is covered from the original district, correct?
It is.
So if it exceeds the threshold of the amount that we get per student, like for this year it's $10,000. Special ed costs that exceed that threshold are reimbursed by partner.
Yeah, I think you said that, thanks, yeah. No. I'm just throwing out what ifs. Yeah.
It sounds like you might be more comfortable with kindergarten number 8. I mean,
To me, it doesn't make sense you throw out 10 when you expect to get 4 or 5.
yeah, and
Well,
Make it 4 or 5,
Yeah.
let's just, then we can plan for that.
But we have other grades where we have 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, in one case, 9 students in that grade, and I
My
don't.
first year that I started, we got 8 kids, we got 8 kindergartners.
Yeah.
I think that's like grade 5 or 6 right now.
Yeah.
So there is a chance, like you just said.
Absolutely.
So,
And can I clarify, the number 2 under the program funding, early beginnings grant, does that really mean 16,500 for each kindergarten student? It would be the 10,000 plus 6,500? Is that how I'm reading this? It says for each resident pre-K and kindergarten student enrolled,
Oh, yes,
you
yeah, we
get
get
an additional 6,500.
So we get additional $6,500 per
Kindergarten
child.
student.
For kindergarten.
Yes.
Is that new?
No.
That's, okay, I missed
We
that.
got that, because I remember when we got those 8 kids, I'm like, what's all this money for? And when I emailed, they told me it was because of
So
that, and then.
it's 10,000 for first grade and above, and 16,000.
No, you get an additional 6,500. And then we also get additional funding if there's a certain number in the same class or the same grade. I don't know around that, but we also get additional funding for that as well.
Mhm.
And then, and the whole class benefits from it because we can use the funds for all the kids in kindergarten. The remediation, component of it. They brought in, teachers from CREC actually, from Open Choice, to come in and sit with kids and do the, phonics and all of the intervention work that needed to be done. They sat in the library and met with kids.
So you wanna, I think you had I should have put together a draft motion, so I think that you, again, if it's comfortable with whether that number's 10 or 8, you know, I think that that's a discussion for the board, but the ask is to declare 10 kindergarten seats and 3 first grade seats. That's it, right? And then with the ability to add up to 3 siblings above first grade. That would be, but the hard part is the declaration is only gonna be, like the form that you saw in there that I would fill out, it's, if you look in the form, there's that chart that I have to fill out. I would put 10 for kindergarten unless you lower that number to 8, and 3 for first grade. Then the expectation is all the other ones are current students. And that's pretty consistent with past things we do.
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with 10. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I think
don't
10 is a
either.
reasonable number. to go with.
I would agree, Meg. I feel comfortable with, if you're telling me that you're comfortable with 10 seats in kindergarten, then I feel comfortable with 10 seats in kindergarten.
I do.
I'm fine with 10. My concern remains with the unknown variable of 3 other
Gotcha.
students
Yeah.
that we don't, that aren't kindergartners.
Yeah. But I appreciate the clarification that you're not declaring specific seats for these siblings. You're opening up the option through CREC for them to reach out if there are siblings interested, and for you to be able to be flexible in your assessment of whether that works. And, yeah.
If I could just add, and that, my understanding with open choice is that once you declare a seat, you know, the student that comes is the student that comes, and that's, you know, you prepare and you're ready and you provide the education. With the sibling situation, if it's not a official declared seat, do you have discretion over people who come? And, yeah, okay.
Yes, because it's not a declared seat.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you're able to use your judgment as the superintendent and with your team on the impact and
Of
what we're
course,
doing.
and that's what I do with the team. Like, I will go over to
Right.
the leadership team and say, you know the makeup of the class, you know what the challenges are. What are you seeing?
Mhm.
And, you know, they may say no, you know, this is a bad idea, and I would reserve the ability to say no. But if it's we feel like we could, to do this, we would.
Can I just ask some enrollment numbers real quick, just looking at the enrollment figures? So right now, the first grade class has 79, the current kindergarten class has 95. Of those, 2 are choice. You're saying you want to open up 3 seats in first, so that would make that 95, potentially 98 students? And in first grade, you have 5 classrooms?
6, because
Six.
the 5 sections will follow the kindergarten to first. There are 6 sections of kindergarten?
So
Okay.
these will roll.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
a good
Because I was
question,
going to
Kim.
be concerned
Yeah.
that would be
The
20
sections
students
roll.
per class in first grade, but it will be across 6. Thank you.
Yeah, the budget that we just passed included the provision of an additional section of first grade,
Thank
which
you.
this year was the kindergarten section, so.
Thank
That's
you.
what happened, this group of kids here started,
Yep.
and then it just rolls, and then it'll drop off after here, all the fifth grade.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And what we
Thank you.
budgeted for next year is 5 kindergarten sections.
Okay,
But
yep.
of course, you know, hey, if the enrollment comes in real low, we may only need 4. If it comes in real high, we may need 7,
Mhm.
right?
Right, that's that unknown.
That's the unknown, that's one
Yep.
of the
Mhm.
wind at the back or wind in
Mhm.
our face. you know.
Sure. Are there additional questions for Charles about this? Thoughts? Nope. Do you want me to, shall I say the motion so we can get it right?
Yep.
Is anybody, okay, I believe I am looking for a motion to recommend to the Board of Education that the district declare 10 kindergarten seats and 3 first grade seats in the open choice program with the flexibility for Dr. Britton to add up to 3 more seats for siblings above grade 1
During the school year of,
during the 2023-24 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Meg. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, I think I heard Kim. Thanks, Kim. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Nope, I believe it was unanimous. All right, thank you. Okay, the next item under new business is a new position in the schools for a bus monitor, and we are going to discuss this in executive session. So we'll move on to old business, and there is no old business. So we can move on to our committee reports. Curriculum had no meeting in January, but we will be meeting next week, I believe. Policy?
Policy is meeting in April.
Personnel? We had a meeting. We're
We
going to be
had-
discussing it during executive session.
I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
We did, yes, we did.
I had to
have-
think through. What did we talk
Yeah.
about? Bus monitors.
Yeah.
Buildings and grounds.
No meeting, scheduled right now.
All right.
CREC is the 3rd week of February.
Board of Selectmen?
Nothing really significant from the last meeting.
All right. Committee on Solidarity?
They had their last meeting, I wasn't able to attend, it was a conflict, unfortunately.
Equity and Inclusion?
It's only me now, right?
And Sarah.
Oh, and you're on, oh, that's right,
But
yeah,
there
I'm
aren't any
sorry.
updates.
Well, there really aren't any updates, they're working hard to, I wanna say, reignite the passion with that and kind of bring together the team, you know, fresh again to address some of those issues. Unfortunately for me, the new meeting date they picked is a conflict for me every month. So,
Okay.
you know, I don't expect them to change their meeting, but I may not be able to, you know, I'll try and see what I can do, but I
Yeah.
may not be able to participate with those meeting times.
Okay, that's good to know. But Sarah, you'll be able to?
I'll
attend,
find out when the
maybe?
new meeting date is. and
Okay.
It's
circle
I think it's the
back.
first Monday of the month from 4 to 6 is what yeah.
Okay, we can revisit that.
Yeah.
We would definitely want to make sure we've got some board members participating in that work for sure. School Facility Study Committee?
February 12th, I believe, next Monday, if we
Sixth.
have.
Yes.
No, 6 was yesterday.
March, I'm sorry.
Oh, March.
Yeah, it's-
Oh,
it's
so it's
March.
been, now it's
Yeah.
March?
Yeah, so
Okay.
don't forget, you confused me, we're meeting, Lou, Stephanie, and I are meeting with the Hartford Department of Administrative Services this week to talk about the last thing we
Yeah.
need.
Okay.
And then it's go time with our committee, so.
So now we're off to March, okay.
Yeah.
Do we get you want, okay, all right.
All right. Our audience of citizens, do we have anyone left online who wishes to address the board? Nope. All right, thank you. Board of Education member comments. I guess we'll start over on this side today. Jim, any comments?
No, I'm gonna reserve, I think we had a healthy discussion about the open choice, and I appreciate
Sure.
that. And I wasn't as excited about the email that I received earlier, but I think this was a good, healthy discussion, and I appreciate it.
Okay. Sarah?
Hearing about all the different funding sources, it does make me wonder if there's a way for us to sort of get a compiled list of those, or if that exists somewhere on the drive, because I think that would help, at least me, orient myself to what are our sources of income versus our expenses. And I appreciate
If you look at the
that.
PowerPoint I did for the
Yeah.
board, with I think it's right, one of the last slides.
It's on the book
Right.
too, it's in the budget book, I don't know.
And there have been some
You received that.
and there have been some updates.
You're talking about like when
since
grants come
then.
in,
Mhm.
and is there
Yeah.
a master list that
Yeah.
we could, maybe that you could add to that
Yeah.
beautiful drive that you put together for us with all the
Yeah, we can.
information?
I have that, I told you.
I
Charles,
know.
said,
Yeah.
I have it, and I said,
Ooh,
I
it's a
said,
big
should I
spreadsheet.
update it? He said, just do it for next time.
Yeah,
I have
we
it.
can get that for you, and as a matter of fact, there are some of them on that list that we don't know yet, right? Like the ECS grant,
Right.
right, which is,
Well, no, she's talking about, I could do this year's, because we
Oh,
have, I
this
have
year.
all the funding for this year.
got
And I created a document that says funding sources, and it's all the title grants, the IDEA, and then all the, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, like the SIG grant, the ESSER money, and how we're spending each of it each year, and how much is left. And now I'll add the mental health grant on,
That'd be beautiful.
yeah.
and then,
Thank you.
revenue sources like Oak Hill, and then, some of the other grants we get. The other one too that, like Gildersleeve grant, that, expect that on the board meeting, agenda
Mhm.
coming up, so, yes. Yep.
Yeah. All right, anything else, Sarah?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay, Meg?
Today I testified at the committee, for childhood. I have to look at the name again, but, Liz Lenahan was the co-chair. It was about a Senate Bill 929 about free lunches to be funded and continued. Probably not in perpetuity, but at least for the next couple of years to alleviate some of the, food insecurity and guarantee that kids are getting nutritious meals. We know sometimes there's lack of funding. We also know that, they're not always bringing in the healthiest, foods, particularly elementary school kids with all those tubes and packages and whatnot. So, there was a lot of, support for funding for all kids, not just, kids who have, free and reduced lunches. So I thought that was interesting. And I spent the last weekend in Washington DC, and we did meet with our congressional contingency. There's a lot of strange things going on down there, but hopefully people are staying on the committees for early childhood and for, education. And, if they do, we'll hopefully see some further funds for infrastructure, maybe HVAC and other things, so. It was a good discussion, very big, a lot of equality discussions on Saturday, advocacy on Sunday. So I'll share that with, Laurel and, Charles, and can dispense that information.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it was a
that.
lot of learning, yep, it was
That's
good.
exciting.
Mhm.
All right, we've moved on to this end. Kim, any comments?
I guess a couple of questions. One, I'm wondering about, the governor just announced new security grants, and if there was a plan to look at applying for any of those this time around. And kind of in that same vein, when we had a public comment regarding security, with an idea that was brought up, I'm wondering how we go about having a board discussion about that idea. Do we get that on an agenda in the future? Just wondering those two things.
Go ahead.
You want me to address, let me start with the security. So, we have already received the grant money, right? So, there are 2 security grants. One of them is the interoperability grant. We have, right now available to us,
The grant is awards for 80,000, we get reimbursed 54% of it. We have to come up with the 80, and they reimburse us 54% of it.
right, and specifically what that $80,000 would be for, would be to purchase new radios. It's an interoperability mobility grant, I forgot the exact name of it. But these are if you walk around any of our buildings all the time, you see all of us carrying radios, right? And of course, they're helpful to communicate in school, But the purpose of this grant is to equip us with digital radios that if first responders are coming to the school, they can patch into us immediately so that we could tell them where to send the ambulance or the fire truck. And we have the 40, 50, 80,000, 52% reimbursement. The problem is we have to come up with the other, right, the other 80 minus 52%. Help me out, Stephanie. What do we have?
It's like 42.
Right, we have to come up with our 42,000.
Well, no, we have to come up with the whole thing. It's a reimbursement,
we
so
get
we have to
reimbursed.
pay the full 80, and then they reimburse us back the 46 or whatever it is.
Right, so we already have that grant. So the grant there is for districts that weren't as on top of it as we were last year when we got it. Now, we wanna spend that money, we wanna access that, but that means we have to find $80,000, buy these radios, and then submit the bill and get the 52% back. And, as you know, this year's budget has been a little tough. So Stephanie and I have not been comfortable fronting $80,000 if Stephanie's saying we have a big deficit. Now that Stephanie's reminding us what date it is and we're in a better position, we're working on it. Bob, who's amazing, is also aware of other revenue sources in the town that tower funds and other types of things that we might be able to use. So my hope is that before the end of this year, either with placeholder left savings that we might generate or other revenue sources, we can access that grant and spend it. But for this round of grant funding, we wouldn't apply for it because we already got it. Does that make sense? There's a lot of dots on that.
That would just be, that would be additional things we could apply for, but we really need to be able to afford this first one before we go and apply for another one.
But we have it there, and this would be a tremendous upgrade at both equipping all of our buildings with new radios to communicate within the building, but also, God forbid, if we ever needed to communicate with first responders coming to provide aid. So we already have done that. We have the grant money. Now it's just about finding our matching parts of it and accessing, paying the full amount and then accessing that as a reimbursement.
Yeah, and as for your second question about when we have public comment, do things become an agenda item if we wish to discuss them further? And the answer is yes. If we wish to pursue something, we would add it to an agenda in a future meeting. The topic about SROs is something that the board recently discussed. Was it last summer? Early in the fall? End of the summer?
Yeah,
It was in the summer. It was in the summer, yeah.
Right.
So I don't know that that's something that we're looking to add to the agenda right now, but if there is consensus of the board to add a topic to the agenda, then we can bring that up and we can make that happen. But I think the feeling is we have a lot on our plate right now, particularly with the school renovation coming up, and that allowing Charles and the admin team to kind of focus on that is maybe the right strategy in this moment. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Stacy, did you have any comment?
Just appreciative of the DECA presentation. I love when the students come and they, they present their work, and just really happy to see this. I think it's great, so, yeah.
And that's that's our journalism course though.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, so.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I want to get a spotlight on our writing center, which is also
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking
so
forward to
cool
hearing
this
about
year.
that.
So this is proves the world.
Good stuff, that's right.
Stacy, I totally agree. I really, really enjoy our school spotlight. I think it's a really lovely way to feature some interesting and exciting things that are happening in the district. So I know that you're working with administrators to kind of figure out what other kinds of special things to feature. But also, I would say if we have teachers in district who have something exciting happening that they want to throw out to you as a potential spotlight, that they should do that.
And credit to Tricia's been great helping put that together and communicating and organizing. We have a calendar set up now for the rest of the spring. We have some pretty cool things.
That's great. I'm excited for that. Yeah.
I'm
Dave?
good.
No? Okay. All right. And I think I'm all set. So I believe that if there is a motion, we can move to executive session for the purpose of discussing the new position.
Can I interrupt one thing?
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie reminded me. She's very good at that. Thursday night this week at 6:30, we are meeting with the Capital Improvement Committee. for the town.
We're at the
Okay.
long-range capital.
We're scheduled for
to
that. We had to
present our
change the
capital plan.
date, like, there were
Got
some,
you.
the calendar's out. So I will be there, Bob will be there, Stephanie will be there. We'll be sharing with the town our capital improvement plan. Certainly, anybody on the board is available at 6:30. We're gonna be in town hall in the conference room there. Otherwise, I think you know what the capital requests are. Actually, I
Yeah.
shared those with you.
Yeah.
That's largely what we'll be sharing with that.
Okay, oh, thank you for that, that's good to know. Where were we? Oh, executive
Motion.
session,
I
is
make
there?
a motion to go into executive session and invite Dr. Britton to join us, and it is 8:49.
All right, thanks, Meg, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.